Hey guys, let's talk Beyond the Gates for today, August 3rd, 2026. So, we start this episode back at the country club with Danny and Vanessa. And on Friday, we saw that Danny got a text message from Haley, basically with sending her a picture of her sunglasses, letting her know to stay out of her house. So, she's laughing and sharing the text message with Vanessa. And then Vanessa is like, "Oh, did you leave the sunglasses on purpose?" And she was like, "What do you mean on purpose?" And she said, "I swear I didn't leave it on purpose. I didn't do it on purpose." And when she says that, her mom said, "Do what on purpose?" And so, she's shocked and she's shocked and stunned, that her mom has appeared out of nowhere. And so Vanessa kind of like changes the subject to kind of get Danny out the hot seat by saying that she was glad to see Anita out and about. And Anita is like, "Yeah, I'm so glad that, to be on the end of this journey, on the other side of this." They're talking and, they're just chatting or whatever the case may be. But then Anita, brings this circle back around because I asked you a question. Don't act like you can distract me. Like I'm your mother. I'm not dumb. What were you talking about? So then she tells her that she left her sunglasses at Bill's house. And she was like, "What were you doing at Bill's house? I thought you were keeping your distance." She said, "I was, but Haley threw the girls out of their father's house." And Anita says, "She did what?" Y'all thought that Danny was heated when she found out. Anita was just as heated when she found out because he did what? I mean, she did what? Like, who this girl think she is? And so, and then Danny was like, "And she cheating on Bill." And they was like, "Cheating on Bill?" And she was like, "Yeah." And they were telling her about Randy. And she was like, "Well, I wasn't going to say nothing, but I saw some suspicious activity with Haley during the tornado and Kyle Abbott." And then they was like, "What?" She was like, "My spot can, I mean, my," because she was coming there to get a massage. She was like, "My massage can wait. I'm going to need a beverage and food for this tea." So they go and, get a table or whatever, and they're chatting and they're talking about it. And Vanessa is adamant that that Randy and Haley aren't having an affair. She doesn't think that they're having an affair. And she was like, stranger things could happen. They're just, chatting away about it. Meanwhile, Kat is at Orphe Jeans because we know that when Deanna left, she saw, her greet um Randy. So she's like watching him because Kat is Inspector Gadget. So she's still sitting at the counter at Orphe Jeans, and Mona comes in, they trade small talk or whatever. And then, Mona goes over to speak with Randy. So this piques Kat's interest. And so she is kind of listening and waiting for, that conversation to be over. Randy and Mona are talking about, him and his job and, him doing things, that aren't good, and it's just a lot going on. So they're just talking about all of that. And in the midst of talking about all of that, um he makes a joke about, which wasn't a joke because it was really serious. He makes a joke about, if I don't do what I'm told, then I could die. And then Mona's like, "Wait, that ain't cool." And he was like, "Oh, I was just joking." She's like, "That ain't fun to joke with." So Randy leaves, and then Kat comes over and she's talking to Mona, and Mona is all too willing to chat with Kat. And she tells her that he works for Joey and all of this. So Kat is texting her cousin, and she tells her cousin that she got all the tea. And her cousin was like, "Well, let me know what you know." And then she was like, "I'll tell you later." Meanwhile, Chelsea and Naomi are still at at Naomi's apartment. and they're chatting and they are trying to, decide that they're not going to put more stress on Bill because he has enough stress and they need to, keep him level as, with his unknown health issues or whatever. And so while they're talking, they're also waiting for Kat to come over. And when there's a knock at the door, they think it's Kat, but they open the door and it is Haley. And Haley's coming over because she wants to apologize. And then they're like, but you want us to call first? And she was like, it's for your protection too, because I don't want you to catch me and Bill in an intimate moment. And Chelsea's like, ew, that's gross. Because nobody wants to hear that. Like, why would you even say that, Haley? And so when she says that, Naomi was like, but you came over here without calling. So let me return the favor and ask you to leave. So she goes to open the door, but when she opens the door, Kat is there. So Kat is about to spill, but when she notices that Haley is there, she stops short, and then, Haley leaves and they close the door, and she tells them that Randy works for Joey. So comes out, Chelsea already knew that. And she's like, but, they're trying to figure out, what the connection can be between the two of them. And Kat says, per her podcast, there's three reasons: money, love, or revenge. And in this case, the audience, we know that it's about money, but they kind of rule out money and then they think that maybe it's love. And so, they're chatting, but when Kat told them about Randy working for Joey, Naomi had called her mother, and Danny shows up, knocks and shows up. So they Danny in. She's like, "Cat girl, I got info. I got intel." She was like, "Okay, tell me what you know." It was so funny. Them two are hilarious because Cat is literally Danny Jr. So she's like, "Well, Vanessa told me that Randy and Doug grew up in Philly together." And then Cat's like, "Wait, isn't Haley from Philly?" And they all like, mm-hmm. So they think it's some kind of co, like, the girls think, Chelsea and Naomi, they think that it could just be a coincidence. Philly is a big place. It doesn't necessarily have to mean anything. But Danny and Kat are like, it's something suspicious all going on there. Because Kat is like, the lady who coincidentally made friends with you and ended up marrying your dad, you think that this is too far fetched? Because that's right. Like, she already done did this. So it's not that far fetched. Keep going down this rabbit hole, Cat. It's going to lead you somewhere. And then we have Bill and Joey, and they're at the casino, and Bill is thinking about his mortality and all of that, and talking with Joey about mortality. And he basically is coming because he wants Joey to look out for his family should something happen. And then, Joey is like, I never really gave much thought to mortality before, but now that I'm with Vanessa, is a different thing. I'll agree to look after your family if you agree to do the same should something happen to me and look out for Vanessa. Then Mona comes to the casino and she wants to play for Randy's soul. So she um wants Joey to, like, put him on less dangerous assignments and assignments that, aren't criminal. And, they actually kind of strike a mutual respect for one another because she's a good card player, and I guess Joey wasn't expecting that. And so they kind of, I can't say that Joey is not going to require what he requires of Randy, but he has a mutual respect for Mona, I believe. I don't say Mona respect them, but see y'all. Hey guys, let's talk Beyond the Gates for today, August 4th, 2026. So, this episode, we start at Naomi's apartment with Danny, Kat, Naomi, and Chelsea. They're, still there finishing up their conversation, trying to figure out what Haley's angle is and what may be going on with her and this Randy character. And so then they start talking about the prenup, and they're like, Bill might not have put in an infidelity clause in the prenup. And so they're wondering what could possibly be in Bill's prenup. So Naomi was like, well, I can go see if I can find it at the law firm. And they were like, oh, you think you can do it? When can you go? She was like, I can go now. So Naomi goes to Bill's office, and Caroline is in his office. And, they trade pleasantries or whatever. And she says that, oh, I'm here to go over some notes that my dad drafted for Madison's case. And she was like, oh, okay, well, I'll leave you to it. And so she leaves out while Naomi gets on the computer. So Naomi gets on the computer, and she's, searching the computer files for the prenup, and in comes Tomas stopping progress. So unfortunately, he did make it back from Puerto Rico. I wish that he didn't. Why isn't he still there? But whatever. So he's made it back, and he again is assuming wrong that Naomi is there vying for his job. Like, nothing you could do. I don't care how good an attorney you can bring in, all the billable hours you wanted. If Bill wants his daughter to take over his firm, his daughter is going to take over the firm regardless of anything that you do, Tomas. You can't fight with nepotism if that were the case. Naomi's not looking to work at the firm, and she tells him as much, but he still is suspicious of her. And meanwhile, Bill and Haley are at the country club, and she is talking about she wants him to make a flight today for them to go to St. Bart's. And he was like, yeah, I don't think I can do that. And she's like, why? And he tries being a bit evasive with her, but she starts getting annoyed, and she is demanding an answer. And so he tells her that he is still having some health concerns. He tells her about collapsing in his office and all of that. And she's all playing the dutiful wife. If I would have known, I would have been pushing you to exercise. Blah, blah, blah. Yada, yada, yada. Yes, you would have, because you trying to kill him. But she's like, well, then she starts seeing if maybe he can get a beach house there somewhere around where he didn't have a beach house with Danny, because Danny and Bill had the beach house in Rehoboth. So she's like thinking about somewhere else, and she gets him a mocktail, which probably has poison in it. She gets him a mocktail, and so that, and she orders some crab cakes so that they can have a staycation. And um meanwhile, Isaiah and Jacob are at the club as well, and they're talking about Eva and her convalescence, and how they haven't been able, she's clear to have sex, but she hasn't they haven't had sex, and so he is concerned or whatever. Meanwhile, Eva's taking Noah out to celebrate the end of his first day, and her mother shows up, and they're talking, and Leslie lets it out that Eva recently had surgery, and he was like, "Oh, she seemed fine all day." He was like, "I never even knew," and she was like, "Well, you weren't supposed to know because everybody, is treating me like an invalid, and so it was good to be treated normally." And so when she's saying all of that, Isaiah comes up, and he was like, I'm sorry if I was one of those annoying people. And she was like, "Oh, you could never be annoying." And so, they're talking, and he was like, "Well, they start talking about how there was a OD at the clinic, and Noah jumped right in, administered medication, and was able to handle the situation so that he may be, actually good for the job." So Isaiah was like, "Well, I'm going to take Eva home." So Eva leaves with Isaiah and leaves Leslie with Noah, who then in turn spills her venom about Anita, Nicole, and the Duprees, and how her mother was put to the pasture for Anita's career and all of this stuff. The woe is me. And I knew when Ted turned her down, I knew that she didn't change in the first place. Let's start there. I knew when she said she was turning over a new leaf after Eva got Cat's liver. I knew that she was full of crap when she said that. But I especially knew when Ted expressed that what they had was never really love. When that happened, I knew that she was going to go right back to her foolishness. And here she is trying to disparage Anita and Nicole. And I just hope that Noah, because he said, "I've met Nicole, and from what I can tell, you know, don't be like Eva. Go off of the interactions that you've had with these people." He said he had positive interactions with Anita. He had positive interactions with Nicole. Don't let Leslie get into your head. Meanwhile, um, Naomi tells Tomas to go call Kat and to get out her face, basically. And so she leaves. And she leaves, and Tomas calls Kat and asks her to come down to the office to watch him work. And so she goes down, and she's in with Kat, and Kat runs into Caroline, and Caroline says she's going to Uptown. So when she says she's going to Uptown, Kat texts Chelsea to tell Chelsea to get to the law firm, to get down to Uptown to go, speak with uh Caroline. And Kat goes in speaking with Tomas, and Tomas tells her Naomi was there, and she kind of tells him what they're working on, but he doesn't want no parts of it because this is his job and his livelihood, and he doesn't want to have anything to do with bringing Haley down. And meanwhile, Jacob comes home while Kat, Nate, Chelsea, and Danny are there, and he's kind of like weird about them being there, but it's not that deep or serious. But everyone ends up leaving. Kat and Danny leave first, and then again Chelsea leaves when Naomi gets back, and Naomi kind of tells him what's going on, and he said that he's down to help. And then Chelsea does go down to Uptown, and she speaks with um Caroline, and she finds out that they ain't as close as they used to be. And she tells her, "If you find out anything, let me know because I just want to make sure that my dad is taken care of." And then Danny goes to the country club and asks Haley for her sunglasses, and Haley gives her the broken sunglasses. And they share words with Bill and everyone. And then Nicole And Colton, we see them today. He's trying to go over for a sleepover, but she can't exactly have a sleepover because she has a housemate right now. And so, she turns him down. And then later we see that Carlton sees her leaving with um Kyle. I don't know why she wasn't just honest. But that was just Beyond the Gates for today. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Hey guys, let's talk Beyond the Gates for today, August 5th, 2026. So we start this episode with the Grands, and Anita's at the piano and she's trying to practice her scales, but her voice isn't there. And so she's trying, but it's just not coming out. And Vernon is by the staircase and he has a sad look on his face and he's watching her. And so she comes back and she, starts talking to him about, they're supposed to be recording with Devon, but she just doesn't got it. Like, she's trying to warm up and her notes aren't coming out, and so she's worried about, if, she's going to actually be able to do it. So then we have Leslie. She is sitting at the country club and she is just has been reignited at this point. Her nastiness has been reignited, but she's sitting at the country club and she's looking at from this day on from last year on her phone with her and Eva or whatever. And on that day, it was the when they went to the concert that Anita and the Articulettes did last year. So, she's looking and thinking back on that or whatever. And she's looking sorrowful because she didn't know Barbara. I just, yeah, Leslie. Leslie will have that power over you. So anyway, Nicole is leaving the club and Carlton is coming in and they cross paths and they start talking and kind of planning a date. And then here comes Leslie and she is making snide remarks to Nicole about her and her two men. And then she lets it out that um Kyle has been staying at Nicole because she heard this information from her employee, her elite employee. No, I'm sorry. But why would Noah's stupid too? Because why does my employer need to know about it? Ain't even his personal life, because it's not even like that information is pertaining to Noah. It's not. It's pertaining to his father and the relationship he has with Nicole, which has absolutely nothing to do with Noah. Why is your employer asking you anything about people in your life and their relationships? That's crazy. Absolutely insane. But Noah was a faucet and spewing all of the business that wasn't even his to spill. Like, it's crazy. And so Carlton is like, yeah, whatever this is, I don't want no parts of it. I got a consult. And she was like, well, maybe we can talk later about making our date. And he was like, yeah, call me or whatever. And he leaves. So then we have Tyrell, Smitty, and Martin. He done got breakfast for the family and he wants to have a conversation. So Tyrell is crazy. He done lost his darn mind. I'm just over everybody in Fairmount for Crest at this point because, okay, Tyrell has this bright idea that he's going to go to Banneker and on the weekends he's going to fly to California to be with Jessica. Mind you, he ain't talked to Jessica, got her weigh in on this or nothing. He just decided this is what he gonna do because this relationship, we are in love and this relationship is the real deal or whatever. Meanwhile, Samantha and Jessica are at the country club and they're talking, and she's talking about how, she went to parties with her roommate and was with the athletes. And Samantha's like, hold up, did you cheat on my brother? And she was like, oh no, I would never do that. But that's kind of not his thing. And, she wants to enjoy the full college experience. And she was like, that's the reason I kind of wanted to break up. And then, Samantha's talking to her like, girl, you gonna have to have a talk with him. So then Smitty and Martin like, who is gonna be paying for these flights? Because mind you, the price of gas is going up, and the price of gas affects the plane prices. So like, who is paying for these tickets for you to be driving cross country to and from? Because really, you fly there when you get out of class on Friday, you there on Saturday, but you got to come back on Sunday because you got class on Monday. What the Who's doing that, Tyrell? Like, be so freaking for real. Like, I don't even know what these kids is thinking. And so he thought that he would articulate this to his parents, and his parents would be like, you right, we gonna get you um a subscription to the airline. Oh, it's the airline that had the subscriptions? Is that like Frontier? Maybe they're gonna get him a Frontier subscription so that he can go fly back and forth whenever he wants. Like it's taking the bus across town. Be be for real. So he then goes to Orphe Jeans with Jessica and Samantha, and he's um telling them what the conversation that he had with his fathers. And Jessica's like, wait, I you gonna do what? I didn't want you to do that. Because she won't on board with that, because she wants to have activities and things that she wants to do. And if I got to spend my weekends with you, I can't do the activities and things that I want to do as being a part of my school culture. Like, what do you mean you're going to fly every weekend? That's crazy. So Samantha's like, yeah, I'm out. So Samantha goes home and she's talking to her dads, and she's like telling him, about the conversation that she had with Jessica and, Tyrell and everything. And she's like, Tyrell does this. He's been doing this ever since he was a little kid. He wants to pin down his future, because if he doesn't, then it feels like it could all go away and things won't go the right way. And it's definitely some residual trauma from, how they grew up prior to coming to live with Smitty and Martin. Meanwhile, Tyrell and Jessica are talking, and Jessica was like, "Yeah, we got to break up now." So she breaks up with him, and then he goes to the hospital, and he's looking for Ted, or he's looking for Nicole, and Nicole's not there, and Ted's not there. So then he ends up talking with Carlton, and I think Colton, in a way, is kind of relating because he wants more of Nicole than Nicole is willing to give. However, Nicole, after leaving the country club, she went to speak with her mom, and she is going to make a decision about what she wants and what she's going to do about the two men of her life. She said by this time next week. Whew. Then we have Eva and Isaiah. So Eva is upset still about her scar. And so she ends up going to have a consult appointment with Carlton to see what he can do about removing and or minimizing her scar. And he was like, yeah, we're not there yet. You're still healing. Your scar has to completely heal before we can even think about, anything else. And she's desperate. And it's very much giving Jordan trying to get her face fixed after the car accident she calls. Not saying that Eva calls herself having to get the liver transplant, but is a level of vanity there that's kind of annoying me about these two characters. So then she's going home, she's throwing all her crop tops away, and she ends up talking to her mom, and her mom tries to make her feel better or whatever. Then we have Ted and Andre. They're at the club, and you know he is starting to possibly open up about something from his past that could come in and ruin his marriage to Danny. And he's like, do you think that if you would have told Nicole that you could have weathered the storm? He was like, I like to think so, but that the chances are our marriage probably would have ended a lot sooner. But what is this about? And he was like, well, he thinks that something from his past could come back and ruin his relationship with Danny. You didn't cheat on Danny, so I don't think that's happening, but I digress. But yeah, that was Beyond the Gates for today, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday. Yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow and we'll discuss. Hey guys, let's talk Beyond the Gates for today, August 6th, 2026. So we started this episode at Danny and Andre's house, and Danny is at home working, looking at some sketches, for the next line of Tatum's clothing line. That the line that Danny models for, and so there, she's working, and while she's working, Andre comes in, and he greets her or whatever, but then he is very short and very distracted. And Danny takes his phone and she's like, yay, yo, what's up with you? And he was like, oh, nothing. Can I have my phone back? And she was like, absolutely not. We don't do this. Talk to me. Tell me what's going on. He's very vague, but he starts talking about his past and how he did some things that he's not proud of. And Danny was like, I would never judge you for your past. You can tell me anything. And so when he may be about to open up and confide in her, Chelsea actually shows up, and Chelsea tells her that she talks to Caroline, and that Caroline said that she don't really spend time with Haley anymore, and that Haley has her own life, so she's probably spending time with someone else. Meanwhile, at the office, Bill is talking to Caroline, and she asks him, is everything going on with you and Haley? And she throws Chelsea under the bus, telling him that she had talked to Chelsea the night before, who was concerned about his health, and is Haley being there for him. And so he gets into it with Caroline and is like, you need to mind your business, basically, and my personal life don't have anything to do with you or Chelsea or my daughter, and all of this. So Bill reaches out to Chelsea to have her come meet him at the country club because he wants to talk to her about talking to Caroline. And so when she gets the call, Danny was like, oh, Caroline threw you under the bus and you're in trouble, basically. And she was like, no, no, no. She's like, oh, call me if you need me because, you know, yeah, I already know what this is. So then she's talking to Andre because she's like, okay, I'm sorry that we got interrupted, but we can pick that back up. And he was like, changing and deflecting. He's like, oh, don't you got a meeting with Tatum? And she's like, oh, yeah, I do. And so she has to leave. And she reiterates that she loves him for all of him and that he doesn't have to hide anything from her or anything like that. So Danny leaves to go meet with Tatum, and when she gets to Uptown, she runs into Randy. Randy had just been talking to Haley before Danny got there, and they were running down. He was telling her that she needs to get him to St. Bart's, and they were running down the plan of what was going to happen when they get to St. Bart's. So she's supposed to get the welcome drink and spike it with an extra big dose of the poison, and then he was gonna die, and XYZ. So they started talking about that, but then they leave. And so Danny comes in and she's like, oh, and she's messing with Randy, talking about you know, I basically, she is co-signing him sleeping with Haley or whatever the case. And he's like, you think I'm sleeping with Haley? And she was like, look, you ain't got to lie, Craig. That's what she was basically like. You ain't got to lie, Craig. And so then she leaves and goes to meet with Tatum, and then Tatum is, telling her that she wants input from Danny on, some of the outfits or whatever. And so Danny is skeptical at first, but then she goes and gives some input, and Tatum is appreciative and says that she's going to take it under advisement because it's not just Danny modeling the clothes for her. It is also not Danny just modeling the clothes for her. It is also, a collaboration. Like, she doesn't want it to be one sided. She wants them to collaborate. So, you know, that was that. Then Chelsea goes and meets with her dad, who scolds her, but then she tells her dad, that they think Haley is cheating on him, and he's like, Haley wouldn't cheat on me. And he basically tells her to stay out his business because my marriage isn't any of y'all's business. And he goes home and he's having blurry vision and he about to pass out again. And Haley is over there pulling out the tears, and it's been 1 year since we lost our baby that never existed, and doing the Haley things. And so she is demanding that they go to St. Bart's because she's like, I can't keep dealing with your family because your family keeps looking for the worst in me, and I just can't keep putting up with it because no matter what I do, they'll never see the good in me. They're never going to accept me or any of that. So we have yet to see if Bill is going to go along with that. Meanwhile, we have Nicole and Carlton. She calls him to meet at Orphe Jean's for lunch. So they go to Orphe Jean. And Carlton basically asks her, like, what are we doing? Like, yeah, what's going on? And so she's like, I'm sorry that I didn't tell you. He was like, it's your house. You can have whoever you want to stay at your house. But he wants more. She's not willing to give him specifically, his words, not mine, what he is wanting. She'd rather do that with um Kyle, and he is accepting of it. He doesn't like it. He likes her and he would like to do it. And he asked her, why Kyle and not me? And she's like, well, Kyle's willing to go along with, whatever I want for as long as it takes me. And he was like, I think you're a bit more committed to Kyle more than you want and more than you're ready to acknowledge. And I think that it is more him than me. Like, you really want to be with him as opposed to me. And, it's no hard feelings about that. And then she was like, so we can still be friends. And he's like, yes, of course. And he was like, and she was like, I hope that you get everything that you want. He said, oh, I will. I'm a good man, remember? And so they ended and parted, on good terms. Then we have Leslie, exasperating Leslie. So she is meeting with Ted because, in yesterday's episode, we saw her go over to meet with Eva, who is having the issues with the scars and everything. And so she's telling Ted that he has to do surgery on her, and he's like, it's unethical. It's not really, I can't really do that. And so she's trying to press it because Leslie is the type of person who doesn't respect boundaries. She doesn't accept no for an answer, but sometimes no is actually the answer. Whether you like it or not, sometimes that is the answer. That's it. That's all. And it's nothing further that can be done about it. And in this case, wanting Ted to do the surgery is just that. And so she makes several comments while talking to Ted about him not being a good father and him not caring about Eva. And that is crazy. And he actually kind of checks Leslie more firmly than I've ever seen him check her. And that was surprising because he's typically not firm with her at all. But I guess her, talking about what kind of father he is kind of evoked that kind of um, emotion out of him. But she then, it doesn't go anywhere because she still wants what she wants. And then she's telling him that she'll go to Carlton because maybe Carlton will give her what he needs because he giving Nikki what she need. And at the end of the day, Carlton already had a consult with Eva and he already told her no. So she's not gonna get a different answer from him. But yeah, that was Beyond the Gates for today. Let me know what you thought in the comments, and we'll be back tomorrow to go ahead and round out this week. Good night. Hey guys, let's talk Beyond the Gates for today, August 7th, 2026. So we start this episode with Haley and Bill, and Haley is doing Haley things because that's what Haley do. So um Haley is waking up and Bill is having breakfast or whatever. And Haley states that, he asked her if she's feeling better. And she's like, yeah, but I still need to get out of town, because Haley wants to go to St. Bart's because we know why Haley is trying to go to St. Bart's. And he was like, oh, I was hoping that when you woke up, you would feel better and, you would be able to stay. And she's like, no, I don't want to stay. I need time away. And he was like, oh, you don't run from a fight. And she's like, Bill, um, I need to go. So he's really not trying to go. And she was like, well, fine, then I will go without you. And so then she is leaving to go pack or whatever. And Bill's like, okay, I'll go. And so he has to go run to the office so that he can, tie up loose ends and have um, Caroline like close up. I mean, can't clear his calendar and things like that. However, as we all know, yesterday she already had Caroline cancel, all his appointments and everything. So he goes to the law firm and he's getting his stuff. And, Caroline's like, I already canceled everything. I assumed that you would want to take this work with you. And she was like, are you sure your doctor cleared you to go? And he was like, I'm a grown man, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Here go Bill. And so she was like, okay, well, have a good trip. So he leaves out to go leave. And when he's leaving out to leave, he collapses and Caroline comes out of the office and sees him laying there. And she, tries to wake him up and he doesn't. And she's calling the paramedics or whatever. Bill, Bill. That's all I have to say. Bill. Okay. So then we have Danny and Vanessa. They're at Uptown and, they're talking and she's telling her about Randy and all of that. But we all know that Vanessa is a op and she's like, well, she deflects the fact that, Randy is doing something. She doesn't know what Randy's doing, but she deflects the fact that they're talking about Randy and turns it into why do you care what is going on between Haley and Bill and all of this. And Danny is lying, talking about stuff. Well, Bill is always going to be my children's father. And she's like, yeah, but your children are grown, which is a solid point from Vanessa. And she's like, yeah, but I just no, you just nothing, Danny. You're stupid. Like Danny is great 75% of the time, but that 25% that's Bill oriented really irritates me because girl, why do you lose your brain over this man? Like it's ridiculous at this point. But anyway, but while they're talking in comes Heather and she's saying that she's coming to see Vanessa. She had to speak and she asked Vanessa about the dinner invitation that Vanessa offered the last time she was there. Heather, I thought you was leaving town and not coming back. Because, but she's talking with her and she wants to take pictures with Danny and tells what's the lady? Tells Vanessa to get in the picture too, and she's just doing a whole lot and being very weird, and she's talking about the nickname that she gave Joey, and you know it's so weird. And what is she up to? Because I don't trust her. Joey don't even trust her. So if Joey don't trust her, I don't trust her. Because I don't trust Joey. So anyway, so then Randy and Joey are meeting at the casino, and he's like, "What are you doing here so early?" And he was like, "Yeah, I got word that your sister is in town." And he was like, "Well, where is she?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, I followed her." He was like, "Then she probably knows she was tailed." So he put Randy out there to go find her, like go lay eyes and see where she is. But then Vanessa comes back and tells Joey that, she was at Uptown with Heather and Heather wants to have dinner. And he was like, "Yeah, I don't want to do that." But she talks him into having dinner with her. And he was like, "Well, on the one condition that I will be able to cook." And she was like, "Oh, then that's fine." But he doesn't trust his sister. And Vanessa was acting like she was skeptical of Heather, but I don't think that she's all the way sold that Heather is up to something. But Heather is up to something because why you keep coming back in town? But anyway, so then we have Andre and Smitty. He's asking Smitty about tracing a unknown number. And so he is being evasive and not really trying to answer Smitty's questions. But Smitty is like, "Yo, what's going on? Like, is this something that can affect the family? Because if it's going to come back like on Martin's campaign, I need to know." And he was like, "Oh no, it's nothing like that." What is it, Andre? Because I'm sick and tired of this cloak and dagger foolishness that you got going on. Because this is ridiculous at this point. Say what you mean and mean what you say. Like, what did you do? It's probably not that deep, and I'm counting on it being very anticlimactic. I can't even speak today. I'm counting on it being very anticlimactic because what what did you do, Andre? Meanwhile, Ted and Eva are at Orphy and he's basically checking on her after his conversation with Dina, and she's trying to say, she's fine. And then he's like, "Yeah, yeah, try again." And then she says, "This is a reminder that I have a piece of the half sister that resents me." Why does Cat resent you, Eva? It can't be because the sky is blue. Why does Cat resent you? You love to play the victim. All you want to do is play the victim, and that's why I can't get with her. Because everything she that comes out of her mouth is victim coded. The half sister who resents me. Cat resents you for a reason. You did something to her. You did something to her mother. You don't play about your mother, so why you expect Cat to play about hers? What make that make sense? So let's start there. If we do nothing else, talk about nothing else that Eva has done to Kat. Let's start there. Let's start at the fact that you did something to her mother. You stand 10 toes down for Leslie, whether Leslie right or wrong. And you gonna stand up for her no matter what. But because Kat is like that about Nicole, Kat is an evil villain. Make that make sense. Make that make sense. Somebody make that make sense for me because I ain't following. And so Ted is telling her, it's nothing that we can really do. She tells him that she went to Carlton and he basically told her the same thing. And she's all sad. And he suggested that she see a shrink. And she's like, "I don't need to be talking to somebody who don't know me." Whatever, girl. And they bet not get Nicole to treat her. Absolutely not. Speaking of Nicole, She is meeting with Kyle because now she's going to tell Kyle that they're exclusive, which okay, girl. I don't have a horse in the race. I'm not Team Carlton or Team Kyle, but okay, Nicole, you acting real ditzy, but she's telling him, he at first he thought that she was choosing Carlton over him, and she was like, "Can you stop talking?" And she tells him that she chose him, and so she's talking to him and telling him he's gonna have to go to the pre-events, and he's like he cool, and that everybody's gonna grill him. And then she calls Danny while he's asleep and tells Danny that she is in a relationship now, she's monogamous. Okay, girl, bye. But that was Beyond the Gates for today. Have a safe weekend, and I'll see you